Hello again and welcome to the Memoir channel. Today I'm going to be speaking with Alyson Sheldrake about several books because she's written quite a few. So probably the main one we're going to speak about is Living the Dream in the Algarve, Portugal, the story of one couple's move from the UK to live in the sun. Yes, because I think everybody in the UK would love a little bit more sun. Alyson has also written a book called Cat the Dog, which has done really well for her. Now, it's not technically a memoir. If you were a dog and were to write a memoir, then possibly Cat the Dog would be a dog memoir. But this Cat the Dog book actually did very well for Alyson, and it got to be a #1 bestseller on Amazon in the category of dog care and health. So anyway, let's talk to Alyson and find out a little bit more. Okay. Hi, Alyson. How are you today?
Well, I'm okay, apart from this, obviously. But you already know about that, so.
I do. I wish I could sign it for you.
Oh, it's not actually plaster cast. It's just
Oh, it
bandages.
isn't. Oh,
Yeah,
it
okay.
looks...
Yeah, no, I fractured my wrist, but I did it really badly. So I had to have a surgery to put it all right. So when you get surgery, I put a great picture on Facebook. Lots of my friends look quite green when they finish looking at it because it's I've got stitches and 19 staples.
Oh my God! What did you do? Did you...
Well, I literally walking my dog along the river path here in Algarve, in the Algarve, and it had been raining, it was muddy. I was walking with a friend, luckily, and her dog. And I just lost my footing. I did that classic cartoon, up in the air and bang. But obviously put my arm out to try and stop myself falling. Luckily, I guess my left arm, because I'm right-handed. But it's, yeah, so my first time ever in hospital. So ambulance to A&E, and from there into surgery, and yeah, it was
wow. Okay, so is this on those sort of those uneven cobblestones that you were falling?
No, it's just a river path. It's just a soil path, but obviously because of the rain, it had turned into sort of mud in places. And so I'm pretty good. I know the path really well, and I just missed a bit of mud and just went flying. I got proper walking boots on and everything, so it was just one of those things. But it's a bit of a shock.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. All right. So I know that let's just hang on. Let me back up in my head. Which book did you write first? What is your first book that you actually put out?
Okay. Yeah, I brought them down for you to show you. So this is my first book. It's Living the Dream in the Algarve, Portugal.
Now that is the one that I think we want to talk about.
Okay, yes, that one, and probably Cat the Dog as well, I'm sure, yes. Yeah, that was my first one. That came out in 2020. We actually moved here, well, we bought a house almost 20 years ago. We fell in love with the Algarve. We were still working in the UK, but we sold everything in the UK to buy a house out here, with the eventual plan, once my husband retired from the police, to actually move out here permanently, which we managed to do 13 years ago now. I can't believe the time's gone so quickly.
You've been there a while.
Yeah, we have permanent, but we kept coming. We spent about 4 years after we bought the house backwards and forwards, wanting to live here but not being able to yet. And actually, when we moved out here, I started a blog about life in the Algarve. It quickly became a really success. I can't believe it. But we had over 100,000 views in a year, and it was amazing. But it quickly became quite a professional blog. We reviewed a lot of venues and businesses, and shared lots of events. And suddenly all our personal stories, which was the reason I started the blog, really, sort of got lost, and they just sat on the laptop for quite a few years. And then lots of people said to me, lots of things have happened to you since you've been in the Algarve. You really should write a book. And I kind of thought, well, I've got all these stories sat on my laptop. Why not see what I can do with them? So that's living the dream.
Right. And it was 2020, so I'm presuming this was the COVID. Is it because you got that gap to suddenly sit and write?
Partly, well, no, because when I came out here, Dave and I had always had hobbies that we had in the UK. I was always painted and done some writing, and David always held a camera. So our dream, really, when we moved out here, was to slow down from work in the UK, give that up completely, but then enjoy our hobbies and see if we can make a new career out of the things we loved doing and creating. So actually, I was busy, but I've done over 250 paintings since I moved out here and sold all of them. So I've done really well as an artist. Yeah, it's been lovely. It's been really nice to just do something creative and find other people love it too. So the book was a kind of side to that initially. It was kind of, I was painting and doing some writing. And then classically, virtually the last paragraph of the book, we sold our house. We bought a house in Forogudu, which is right in the Algarve.
I've actually been there.
We did about 8 years permanent there, but then it just got busier and it just got a bit more frantic and a bit hotter in the summer. So we decided to sell, and we've actually moved to Algarve on the west coast, which is just before you hit the Alentejo. It's still Algarve, but only just. Completely different climate, and we love it. We're in Portuguese neighbours, really nice community.
How's your Portuguese?
It's not too bad. I can get by, and then every now and then somebody says something to me and I go, I didn't get the word of that, but mostly I can get by. I find the pronunciation the most difficult. I have a good, strong British accent, and I can't seem to get rid of it. Yeah. But yeah, so the end of the first book was us literally buying the house in Algarve. And I kind of almost jokingly put, I guess I'd better write a sequel. And I had so many people love the first book and contacted me and said, I can't wait for the sequel. And between you and I kind of went, oh, I guess I better write one then. so book 2, here it is. That's Living the Quieter Algarve Dream. And that's our life here in Algarve. So it's the 2 books kind of go together.
Fantastic. And I mean, I'm quite impressed because I saw that you were a police officer for a while, and then you were the director of education for the Church of England, and you were looking after 130 schools. And I'm like, good God, you've been busy.
Yeah, I think that was one of the joyous moments of actually giving up that job and coming out here to live and just going in. I don't think you realise you're on a hamster wheel. You go round and round and round, and you're so busy, and you've got this fantastic job. You're at the top of the tree, and it's quite a lonely place to be because you've lost all the colleagues that you'd go out and have a beer and a laugh with after work, because suddenly you're their boss and they want to go and have a beer and laugh about you. So you have to kind of leave them to it. But I just found Dave did 31 years policing. He was, a career police officer, retired as a sergeant. I did 13 years, but then because I got an education background and degree, I just felt quite stuck in the police. And I actually got seconded out. I worked for 3 years nationally doing drug education work for the police in education. So I found it really difficult after that 3 year secondment to just go back to policing the streets, I think. I still don't know within 4 years how I'd managed to make director of education, but I did.
Well done.
Well,
I mean, it's so funny because it seems like such a different world to painting and writing books. It's just like
I know. I've always joked.
Yeah.
I know. I did art and English literature for my A levels, and then I did a degree in sport. It was very much an arts BA honours degree rather than a science degree. And then I did teacher training, qualified as a secondary teacher on top. So that's my background, I think.
Wow.
Which explains my love of writing and painting, but probably not why I joined the police. But it was, I loved it. It was I wanted to serve. I wanted to help people. It's a great job to really feel part of a community and to do something worthwhile. So yeah.
And okay, so now you when you wrote living the dream in the Algarve, how did you publish that?
Oh, I self-published. I was really lucky. Very early on, I got found a Facebook group called We Love Memoirs. In particular, Victoria Tweed, who's one of the founders of that group. Not only does she write brilliant books about her life first in Spain and now in Australia, but she also has her own small publishing company where she helps authors literally to just get their books published.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So I contacted her, and I literally she wrote a really good book that's free for any memoir authors. That's how to actually publish a book. So I devoured that, and then for every single one of my books, she has been the person that's done all the formatting for me, because that's the one thing that I'm happy doing all of the promotional work and all of the kind of writing, but when it comes to actually just creating a package, if you like, that is professional, that you can put up onto KDP and Amazon and will be accepted. I wanted someone who knew what they were doing. And she's done all of my books. And
because you also had pictures and things that need to be formatted correctly.
Yeah, and I like to have little chapter headings of little diagramming, little drawings as well. And I guess the artist in me wanted to make sure it looked perfect. I wanted it to actually stand out. The first few books I actually designed my own covers. But then when my bestseller, I actually paid to have a professional cover. And I always, if you can afford it, I recommend that. Because
and which one was that? Was that Cat the Dog?
Yeah, here she is. That's my book, Cat the Dog, which of all the books, I have to say, I wrote the 2 Algarve ones, and then I don't know if you know, I did this one as well, which is called New Life in the Algarve, Portugal. And I interviewed 22 different people who've all moved to live in the Algarve. And they've all set up businesses or charities, or they've set up a yurt farm, or they've, become an artist or a writer or been creative. And I've met so many people here that have wonderful stories to tell of the lives they've created since they moved here. It seems to be a very inspiring place for people to live. And I hate that people think all us expats, all we do is go out and drink and sit in bars all day and then drive
and
home
play golf.
Yeah, I don't play golf. So it's, I wanted to, and that was fantastic for me. So I interviewed all of those people, and they've all got a chapter each in the book. Bless him, Chris Sainty is just leaving us, but our current, I think he's still the current ambassador for Britain to Portugal, wrote the foreword to the book as well, which was lovely.
Oh, wonderful.
I really enjoyed doing that. And then I worked on 3 more anthologies, working with all the We Love Memoir authors. I put together a whole anthology of different travel stories. So I think by the time I'd done all of those books, which was by the end of 2021, I did a lot of work in a couple of years.
You were so busy.
I know. I loved it. It was great. I really enjoy it. I love interviewing people. I love hearing their stories. I love finding out what makes them tick, or what their lives have been like. But I knew the book I wanted to write was Cat the Dog, and it was the story of our rescued Spanish water dog. And I'm so glad I waited that I'd written all those other books and done all those anthologies first, because I think I knew what I was doing by the time I got to Cat the Dog, and I wanted so much to do that story justice. I've been amazed at how well it's done. It's sold so many thousands of copies.
I saw that. It's done really well. It's got like a #1 slot there on Amazon. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it's still, because it came out May 2022, so it's almost 2 years old. And if you look on Amazon.com, it's still #1 in all its categories. It's still up there in the top 10,000.
So in the book, I mean, I read a little bit of it. It's told from the point of view of Cat.
Yes, it is.
Cat. So that's kind of an interesting. So how did you know a lot of this stuff, or were you just sort of making stuff up? I mean, was it sort of
both.
fiction, right?
Yeah, Cat was found wandering abandoned in a tiny little village north of Seville by a friend of mine who runs a rescue charity here in the Algarve. She just happened to be on holiday, drove down the road and saw this bedraggled poor little dog just on the side of the road. Her background, of course, she was going to stop. Initially, I thought she was just going to give her some food, but when she saw the state of her, she said, right, I guess I'm rescuing another dog. So Cat was about 5 years old by then. The vets can roughly tell their age by teeth and build. So we know nothing of Cat's history before 5 years old. What I do know is everything she was frightened of, that she reacted to, that she was petrified of, that she really struggled with once we adopted her. So I used all of those things to build the first half of her story, really. So the first part, yes, is fiction, but so much of it is based on things that happened to her, that we saw her response to. And then obviously from the moment we fell in love and adopted that girl, and the story is the true story of a memoir written by a dog.
Yes.
I don't know. She was my soulmate. I have to say, really, really sadly, we lost her only a few months after the book came out, and it was the worst day of my life. So I still struggle a little bit talking about.
I'm sorry.
I rescued another Spanish water dog. She's the love of my life now. But Cat was 1 in a million. She was such a special dog. She was amazing, and I felt such a connection with her that actually writing her story in her words, I found really easy. It was as if I was inside her looking out anyway.
Yeah, that's quite lovely. Yeah, you
Yeah.
obviously had a really good connection. Yeah. How lovely. I'm sorry she's not there, not around anymore.
It happens to it's part of loving a dog, isn't it? That you have to say goodbye to them. But we had 8 years with her, and we gave her the best life we could. And she gave us. There's a classic thing, isn't it? Who rescued who? And I think a rescue dog can give you so much that you didn't even know you were missing as well.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways for sure.
Yeah. Yes, I interviewed is it Doug who wrote The Mutt for Me, who's with We Love Memoirs, and he had the same thing. He rescued the dog, and he was like, "I think it rescued me." Yeah,
absolutely, yes.
so.
It's there's something special about a rescue dog. I mean, anyone that's read the book will know, you know, the history, the things she was frightened of. We know she was beaten. We could, you know, all that she had to be groomed. All of her coat was in an awful state, so all of that got stripped off. And you could see all the marks underneath where she'd been beaten. And we picked up, you know, a vassoura, the broom that local Portuguese people used to sweep the floors with. They don't tend to use vacuum cleaners too much. They just use a broom. You'd only have to pick one of those up and she'd be gone. She would just run. So it doesn't take much to add those two things up to what had happened. So yeah.
Well, I was wondering if you would read us a passage, and I mean, you can pick from which book and pick which passage, but if there's something you'd like to share with us, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, I'd love to. I've got one ready for you. Give me 2 seconds to have a little slip of water.
All right, and I'm going to put you on full screen.
Okay.
So here we go.
Okay, so Cat the dog, as we've said, the book is written in her words. And I think anyone that is a dog owner will probably be able to recognize this story and what happens. Okay. Agrinya Beach was deserted as we rounded the lifeboat station corner, and I padded onto the soft sand. I lifted my head, my nose scenting the air, and took a deep breath. A gentle breeze ruffled my feathers. The early morning sun was already warm on my back as I stood with my paws planted on the ground. I set off racing across the beach, full of the joy of simply being alive, at one with the nature all around me. The waves bounced and tipped onto the shoreline, leaving shiny trails of water behind them as they slipped back into the sea. The sand glistened, tiny shells nestled amongst the slivers of seaweed that littered the shore, and the seagulls whirled overhead. Suddenly I stopped, my nose twitching. Alyson was sauntering along, enjoying the scenery far behind me. I can smell a fish. Where is it? The high tide line was still visible on the sand in front of the dunes that caressed the beach like giant arms, holding everything in place. I scampered up, my paws slipping as the sand gave way beneath me. It was softer here than near the shoreline and harder to walk on. Over there! I ran ahead, head down, nose scouring the ground. The scent was stronger, almost overpowering, as I leapt forward and found the culprit. A giant rotting fish lay on the sand, part buried under a large skein of slimy seaweed. Perfect! I lay down, sniffing and gasping with delight, shimmied forward and rolled over onto my back, all 4 legs in the air, wriggling from side to side. Heaven! Alyson's chuckles filled the air as she approached me. What are you up to now, you little monkey? I was still upside down and I grinned at her, waving my legs around and squirming my body further into the fishy carcass. Ah, you stink! Well, that's charming, isn't it? I righted myself and shook my body, the shimmy reaching down to my tail. Pieces of fish bone and skin flew into the air as Alyson ducked, cupped her arms over her head and squealed. I trotted along the beach, my head held high. Alyson tried to entice me into the sea, but I was having none of it. Why would I want to wash away all that fabulous fishy goodness? No chance. We walked home, Alyson holding my lead as far away from me as she could, and making lots of muttering noises about how smelly I was. My eyes are watering, Missy. I'm not sure I want to be associated with you today. We arrived home and Alyson left me in the front garden. You're not coming inside smelling like that. She came back with my food and water bowl, and I gulped and slurped my breakfast down. Dave came outside and waved his arms at me, wrinkling his nose and gasping. Good grief, you're right, she stinks. Bath time for you, young lady. I thought they were both being a bit dramatic, to be honest. It was only a rotting fish, nothing to get that excited about. Dave picked me up and carried me into the bathroom downstairs, plonking me into the shower tray. Uh-oh. As soon as Alyson entered the room carrying towels and a bottle of shampoo, I realised what was coming. I closed my eyes as the warm water cascaded over me, wriggling under Alyson's fingers as she massaged the stinky shampoo into my body. I still couldn't see what the problem was. Surely the nice fishy odour is better than this horrible synthetic stuff being rubbed into my skin. I'm going to stink of apples for days. I gave myself a good shake, sending water and shampoo flying everywhere. Alyson squealed, "This isn't even working. I can still smell that fish." Dave popped his head round the doorway. "I've just looked it up for you. Apparently, tomato sauce is great for getting rid of the stench of fish. We've got a carton of passata somewhere. I'll fetch it and we'll try that." He reappeared and Alyson spread a load of sauce onto my back. "This is getting worse by the minute. I'm going to smell like the casserole Dave cooked for dinner last night." She rubbed and scratched, showered and shampooed until I thought I'd be there all day. Finally, she lifted me out and I shook myself again, glad to be free at last. I covered the far wall of the bathroom with water as Dave dived out of the way and Alyson covered her face with a towel. Trotting into the lounge, I found my favourite spot on the sofa, which someone had covered with a towel. I settled down to lick my paws and fell asleep, dreaming of my lovely, smelly, fishy friend on the beach. There you go. Anyone that's had a dog that's rolled in something will understand that one.
Oh no. Yeah, that is a good one. And they do that kind of thing, don't they?
They do, and they love it.
Yeah.
The joy on her face, I can still picture it. Upside down, legs in the air, just
shaking the
grinning at
legs.
me. Look at what I found. Wonderful.
And they have a much stronger sense of smell than us too. So that's, I wonder what it does smell like for them.
Oh, I'm sure it was amazing if her face was anything to go by.
Now, what is one of your favorite memoirs about travel? Sort of like the ones you've done about the Algarve. What have you read any that you really enjoyed?
Oh gosh, there are so many. Where do I begin? I love Lisa Rose Wright and Lisa Grantham because they both live in Galicia, which is northern Spain, but it's a bit more Portugal than Spain. The books I've read, their lifestyle and their way of life seems far more Portuguese than Spanish sometimes. So I love reading those. I love Jacqueline Lambert. She writes fantastic books. She's got this great big converted army truck called the Beast. She's got 4 dogs, and her and her husband just travel around mostly Europe, having great adventures. So I enjoy reading those. And I love Simon Michael Pryor as well for his humour. He was very clever. He writes travel memoirs that are almost like novels. He writes a really good, cleverly scripted and pulled together book. So his travels right from, he's British, but lives in Australia, married to a New Zealand. He's got twin daughters. I think they're 18 now. So his books, there's still a series still to come, I think, of more travel adventures from him. They're kind of top of my head. I'll get in trouble for missing out lots that I also love, but they're the first ones that come to mind. Yeah.
And okay, so what are you thinking you're going to do next? What's your next adventure?
Oh, well, I'm kind of stuck. I've got half an idea for a dog-related novel that I've started playing around with. And I'm also looking at just branching into fiction now. I think memoirs, I've done our story of our life here. I've interviewed so many other memoir authors that have given me their stories. So it feels a natural next step to take the writing skills I've hopefully learned and see if I can translate them into fiction. And obviously try and write a series. But I'm just playing around with ideas. I'm quite enjoying not having any pressure, enjoying the process and the fun of writing without any great deadline, I think, attached to the end of it, because I think that sometimes can spoil your writing if you feel rushed or panicked. Or
it seems like you must write fairly quickly when you actually know when you've made your plan and this is what I'm going to write.
Yeah, Cat the Dog was probably the best example of that, because I knew the story I wanted to tell. I'm quite an early riser, so I get up at 5 every morning. The cat would literally be asleep on a bed down here in the office beside me, and I would wake up with the very first words of the next chapter in my head. Now, my husband doesn't get up early, so there's no way nobody was going to take those words away, because I couldn't do anything. If I looked at social media or anything, I would lose them. So I would literally just come down, make a cup of tea, and then start typing. And I found each chapter by about 7 o'clock, when I needed to take cat out for a walk. The next chapter, sort of around 2,000 words, was in Word and typed. So
you were averaging 2,000 words a day.
Pretty much, yeah. And the book came, it was about 2.5 months. Not every morning, but pretty much every morning. But it was such an exciting time for me. I knew what I wanted to say, and it was as if the words couldn't wait to come out of my head. I'm not sure whether that will ever happen again in quite that way. It was
it's lovely. It's kind of, you get in the flow, and there it is, boom.
There is. And as long as nobody disrupted me or said anything, if a couple of times Dave got up early and tried to make a cup of tea, and I went, don't talk, just go, don't take those words away there.
Okay,
so come out.
When you're writing, you like silence, you like quiet, you want to be alone, no movement.
Absolutely. I know other people that can sit in cafes or sit in their car for 10 minutes and dictate the next chapter. I need the words to be in my head first, and just I almost have to get out of the way of them, if that isn't a silly thing to say. I just need to be the person that just types. But of course, at the moment, typing is quite difficult, so it's quite one-handed typing. It's terribly, because I'm a touch typist. I taught myself how to type properly, and now I'm think, and I'm like, but I've discovered Word has a really good dictate function, and I've got a good microphone, and actually pretty 80-90% of the words come out exactly as I've said them. So I've been trying to keep up with my other work by dictating rather than typing. So
I was just going to say, have you thought of doing an audio book of one of the ones you've already put out?
No, I was really lucky with Cat the dog, because there's a company called Podium Audio in America, who are one of the top audio companies. They love Cat the dog. They contacted me and they offered me a great contract. So Cat the dog is my only official audio book. But it was brilliant, because they've got the top narrators. So I've actually got a lady called Zara Ram, who does all of the National Trust adverts in the UK. She's the voice of the National Trust, and she read Cat the dog, and she did an amazing job. I was so thrilled. She did a fantastic job with it.
Well done.
Because I think you need professional equipment. You need, if you're going to, for me, if it's going to be done, I wanted it done properly. And and it's funny actually, because our new dog is called Zara, because we rescued her, and her Spanish name was Hara, but with a J. Now, if you're in Portugal, J is a soft J, so it's a jota sound. But in Spanish, it's a H. It's a really strong, quite harsh J. And I kind of thought, I can't have a dog called H. I can't every time I want to call my dog. So we went, well, why don't we call her Zara, because we keep the same kind of cadence and tone to it. Just change the first letter, and of course it tied in really well with Zara Ram being Cat's narrator, so it tied together really well. So that's my only audiobook, but I'm really proud of it. It was
very good
to get the call from Podium. It was a nice moment.
And I mean, I was reading all the stuff you love about Portugal, and because I'm in Portugal as well, I was just like, yes. And I mean, and then when you were saying the negative sides, I was like, yes too, because I think everyone has that same experience. But I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you've been here a lot longer than I've only been here 2 years, but
this is home, and I can't imagine ever living anywhere else. I never even go back to the UK. This is like
I'm sure everyone comes to visit you, right? They're all like,
our old house. We bought a 4-bedroom house, the first house. So yes, we had lots of visitors. We've just got a 2-bedroom, smaller house now, no spare rooms. Sorry,
shutting it down.
It changes over the years, doesn't it? But I think the thing I love most of the Portuguese people, of everything about, I love the beaches, the weather, of course. But there's something about the Portuguese that I love. There's something gentle and welcoming without being over the top. They're quite restrained, they're quite polite. But if you need help, or you suddenly find there's fruit and vegetables on your front doorstep, they're there for you, and I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I find the same. It is very gentle and safe,
Mm.
and I just feel like everything just goes calm when you're here. It's like, okay.
I think
Because
after the job I was talking about in the UK, and when I'd work 70 hours a week most weeks, I never saw Dave because he'd retired from the police. So I'd leave about 7:30 in the morning to get into the office to beat the traffic first thing. And I'd regularly get home 9 o'clock at night because obviously you work all day for the schools, but then in the evening you're working for the governing bodies and the meetings that happen in the evening because
good
that's
Lord.
when they happen, and you have to be there for those as well. So I spent 3 years doing that job, and I hardly saw my husband. So it was a joy to finally kind of go, do you know what? Let's give it all up. Let's go to Portugal and live there. And I've never regretted it, not for a second.
And how's Dave's photography coming along then? Is he enjoying it as much as you are with all your projects?
Oh, yeah, it's been fun. We've both been amazed at how well we've done. I mean, he's photographed the rich and famous. He's done weddings. He's events. He loves doing property photography because he gets to nosy around houses. I mean, that's, when you photographing a house worth 4.5 million or something, it's quite amazing to have a look around. But yeah, he's just gone from strength to strength. I think people love his beach photography the most. He just seems to capture those moments on the beach that are timeless. I mean, the beauty out here. I mean, how can you not be inspired living here? I mean,
No,
our beaches and landscape is wonderful. But yeah, I've been thrilled for him. He loves grabbing his camera bag, and I know he's had a good day on the beach, but if he's not working, doing a shoot for work, because you'll hear this noises. He comes up the path to the front door, and I go, oh, they've got wet again. And he's like, if his trousers are up to his knees wet, then I know he's had a really good shoot on the beach, because he's just forgot himself completely and a wave's come flying in. So it's amazing how many times I hear this little squelching noise as he comes up the front steps.
Well, you know what? It just sounds like you're living the best life, and good for you, because
Yeah.
that's what I think that's what we're all meant to do. So I'm glad you found it.
Yeah, I think lots of people said, oh, you're lucky. And I never want to I challenge that, because I think, well, you have to give things up if you want to live this kind of lifestyle. We gave up really good career, in my case, a really well-paid job. And initially, for the first few years out here, we knew we could live on Dave's police pension on a 1-to-1 exchange rate, just about, but living a very simple life. We don't, we might eat out once a month back then. Now we're a lot more comfortable with our work, and we, maybe once a week we'll go out and have lunch. But we still live a simple, quiet life, and I think that was what we wanted, really. So it's we're very happy here. We love it.
All right. Well done, and congratulations on all this output, all this creative output for both of you.
No, it's fine. Can I mention just one more thing? Because if people are interested in finding out more, I'll leave you the links, but we do a monthly newsletter. Well, I joke it's a newsletter. About 11 years ago, we sent out a little A4 PDF document, which just covered a kind of summary of our art, the photography, the beaches, what we were up to. And it's now 120-page a month magazine that goes out free online. So if people want to know more about what we're doing or the life we live here, I'll send you the link. Feel free.
I'll put it underneath here.
Yeah, it's free.
Fantastic.
Sign up. People seem to really enjoy it, but we love putting it together. I've been busy trying to dictate and one-hand type it, so there will be an issue in April. It'll be a little bit shorter maybe than normal, but we interview lots of other authors. We do book reviews. We interview people that live here. We try and feature things that happen in the Algarve and Portugal, but we cover things across the world now. We've got all sorts of recipes and quizzes and all sorts in there. So if people want to sign up, they're very welcome. It's
all
free.
right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for being on the Memoir channel today.
Thank you, and thank you for putting up with me and this bit as well.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.